Yeah, audio. Cool. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Sarah, and it's Sunday. I have no idea if anyone's in here, but whatever. I'm going to start talking to myself in a minute. I'm just going to set up and make sure everything's focused before I explain what it is that I'm doing today. If anyone's in here and happens to follow me on Twitter, I was posting some pictures of this little doodad right here. This is the second iteration of the pulley linear little drive system do for my jelly. My last stream, I assembled one of the jelly brain boards, which I can probably go ahead and grab that just to show you what I'm talking about real quick. This is my box of iterations. So for the past couple weeks that I've been working on this project, I have done exactly, oh god, I'm not even going to attempt to label how many different versions of everything are actually in this box. This is the second, like, full version of the jelly, Mecha-Jelly, or the Bulbis, and this is its brain. So this guy's going to mount at the top somewhere on this drive system right here. I think at the top, right here, actually, to be more specific. I'm making this one in red instead of the traditional yellow, just to kind of see how it looks. The thing that's different between this first iteration and the one that I created today is that I went to the hardware store and I bought a bunch of pipe, specifically to kind of facilitate in making a drive system that slid smoothly up and down. And hi Game of Knowing. Hello, and oh wait, Morarin? I don't know. Hello everyone who's in here. I see you. Anyhow, so I wanted to make the drive system, like the bits that slide up and down on the rod that's inside here, I wanted those pieces to ride up and down without chafing, and the easiest way to do that is to nest some pipe like on top of one another. So I needed to find specifically really tiny pipe that fit inside of one another with enough space that they didn't bind up and wouldn't get caught after they were cut, because once you cut pipe, the pipe kind of compresses and gets mashed a little bit, and then there's bruise around the lip, and there needed to be enough space for some play, but it needed to fit tightly and then not be so big that it didn't fit in this tiny little jelly design. So I did manage to find exactly what I was looking for. I think the largest pipe has an outer diameter of like 5 millimeters or something, so it's still pretty small. Larger than I would have liked, but it's good. So what we're looking at right here is, you can't see it, but at the very core of these copper pipes is a threaded rod that is 3 millimeters, it's metric, and then there is a tube on top of the rod that has the inner diameter of roughly 3 millimeters and an outer diameter of 4, and then the tube on top of that rides on top of the first tube is a second tube that has an inner diameter of roughly 4 millimeters and an outer diameter of roughly 5. Yes. So, I don't know if you can see this very well, but let's get the lighting correct. So you can actually see there are these sleeves right here. These sleeves are attached to this ring part, this ring piece, and it allows these ring pieces to actually slide up and down on the pipe pretty smoothly. It's a little bit rough right now. I probably need to lube these up, but the fit is pretty snug. There we go. To show you what I mean. So this can glide back and forth on the pipe and the elastic bands on either end, kind of pull them back into position after they've been actuated. So that's how that works. It's kind of like a muscle, I guess. So these red things on either end are elastic bands, and they make sure that these two rings, there we go, return to either end after they've been pulled towards the center. But anyhow, it's not perfect yet. It's going to take one more full revision of this drive system to get it working, I think. Now that I know the limitations of the pipe that I'm working with now, I'm going to have to make some changes so that this doesn't bind, because as you've noticed, it is a little bit stiff and it is binding. That's okay. I will fix it. And again, I used the red color this time because I thought it would look nice with the copper pipe. So I've got the copper and the red going. There we go. It's a little bit more light. Okay, so what I'm doing today is I'm going to attach these bones. I've got a pile of them stacked up on the side of my bench. I'm going to attach these to these rings right here. I can show you exactly what I mean. Actually, not a bad idea to show this in general. But this guy right here is the full-sized drive system for the big jelly. So the original version of this tiny Mecha-Jelly is hanging above me. It's about this big, but this is effectively what this is. So this is a mini bee-boo version of this guy right here. So these yellow arms right here, this is the bit that I'm going to attach to this guy, but they're going to be red, of course. So yeah. And then it is Noodle's birthday today. So hi everyone who's joined me since I said hello last. It is Noodle's birthday, so he's awake behind me, looking around, just kind of randomly. He is recording a photograph every 5 minutes, so he will have memory of everything that I'm doing right now. At some point after I'm done doing this, I don't know if I'm going to continue streaming, but I do intend to go into the kitchen and make him birthday cupcakes that are made out of Jell-O. Okay, these are the qualifications. His birthday cupcakes have to have Jell-O, beans, and cotton candy involved in some capacity. So I think that so for the sake of them staying edible for actual humans, I'm probably going to end up using jelly beans for the beans, and I might actually end up putting some sort of liqueur in the Jell-O so they become like little Jell-O shots. But the reason I'm doing cupcakes is, and I gotta show you these. So when I went to Ars Electronica in Linz at the end of the summer, it was like the tail end of my artist residency for ISA. I got my ISA hoodie on. So I was in Linz for 3 weeks, finishing up the Wandering Artist project, and I was obsessed with going to grocery stores in Austria because there's something fun about going and buying food and snacks when you don't understand 100% of the words on the packages. And while I was scavenging for food and stuff, I found these tiny little like Bee-Boo cupcake thingies, and they're really tiny. I think they're even smaller than the tiny ones that I have in the kitchen already. Oh, Noodle says thank you. He's 3, by the way, so he's exiting his terrible 2s and entering, like, I think true toddlerhood. But anyhow, when I bought these in Linz, I told myself that for Noodle's next birthday, this would be the medium at which the whatever I made would be delivered into him or me. And depending on who comes over tonight to help me make these cupcakes, there'll probably be booze involved. So they're like Jell-O shot vessels. You're gonna have Jell-O shots, Noodle. Yeah. And he's gonna continue remembering everything. So, anyhow, I'm gonna get to doing. So, what is it, Molly? So that's a lube. I'll look into that. I gotta check out and see what lubes we have in here. Like Mark has a lube bin somewhere. You see all these labeled things behind me. There's one that has just like different types of lubricant in them, so I'll go through and see if we have whatever to use on this. So I think like a little bit of anything really on top of the pipes as they are now will actually help a lot. They fit nicely, but yeah, again, the rings do tend to bind up once they get close to the edges for whatever reason. Probably because the tolerance is a little bit different. It doesn't, I don't know, blah. Don't try to explain things technical when your mind's racing like a million miles an hour, so. Anyhow, so I started cutting my plastic rivets. This process of attaching the bones is pretty much exactly the same as with the baby noodle, the thing that I posted kind of instructions for about a month ago. And you need a bunch of these tiny little plastic pieces of, or 5 to 6 millimeter pieces of filament to act as your hinges, basically, and a soldering iron to make heads on either end to capture the hinge in place. So once I got, I don't know, it's quite enough for now. Once I get a decent enough number of these, I'm going to attach the top row. Yes, the top row, which is the bones that get sandwiched in between these little U pieces right here. I'm gonna attach all of those first, and then I'm going to flip it around and do the bottom ring of bones. And that is the opposite. There are 2 bones that will sandwich these individual, I guess, tabs on either side. And then those 2 rings of bones will connect in the center. So it's a lot of plastic welding. So when I actually put the instructions up on my blog on how to make your own tiny jelly, I'm going to have to preface this with a disclaimer. You have to really like this plastic welding thing, this technique, this step, because you're going to be doing a lot of it. And yeah, Noodle gets his cupcakes. I don't know, what do you guys think? What would be a good liqueur and Jello flavor to pair up? Like, I was thinking Midori sour and lime Jello, and having little like green pucks inside the cupcakes. I like that keto. So the bones that I'm going to be attaching first are these just plain kind of arc looking bones right here. The other type is this kind of the same exact bone, but it has a little, like, I don't know, like a little second hole that pokes up on one of the ends. This is the bone type that gets attached to the bottom inner ring. But these plain ones go on the top. Not that that matters now. Nobody's making this along with me. Alright. I think my iron is warm enough. So these go. But yeah. I did invite a couple of friends over for the noodle festivities, but I'm not entirely sure whether they're gonna show up or not. CES week just ended here in Las Vegas, and this is one of the years that Mark and I decided to take a break. I don't think we went last year either. I mean, it's something that we normally always do because it's close to home. It's in our city, but really, like, CES hasn't had anything like new and exciting in a while. You kind of just go there and you see a lot of the same stuff, and there's a lot of energy there, which is fun to be a part of. And it's fun to visit with people who are in town, but we can still visit the people visiting. We can still see our friends who are in town coming to CES without going to CES ourselves. So I'm going to start doing my welding technique. much the same way as with the baby noodle. These spawnlings. So one of the things that I was meaning to do this weekend that I haven't yet is write code for the Bulbis board. For those that might not know, because I haven't explained it yet during this stream, this board actually connects to LEDs that are going to mount on the tendrils, and there's a color sensor on here that's going to influence those LEDs. I was supposed to come up with some test code that makes sure that this does what it's supposed to, but I haven't yet. Given that I'm not completely caught up celebrating Noodle's birthday tonight, I'll get around to doing that, hopefully. I'm also hoping to get an actual comic page out. I illustrate a webcomic, for those that don't know. Purple flavored? Purple is the best flavor. Is there any, like, purple alcohol? I mean, I know, like, there's blue, there's that hypnotic stuff that's that weird soapy color. Like, is there actually any, like, purple liqueur? Because I can't think of any off the top of my head. Any that taste good. But I don't think Mark has ever bought... I don't think we've ever bought Midori, so it'll be nice to have that as a mixing liqueur thing. I meant to put lotion on my hands before I started. My hands look, like, terrible. Like, I need to get a I don't know, I'm not like a manicure type of person, but they just at least need lotion. Like, it's already dry out here because it's the desert. It's Las Vegas, right? But in the winter specifically, the air is so incredibly dry out here that your hands just crack. And then once your skin starts cracking, start picking at your cuticles. Which isn't good. Noodle. And then again, I think I said this during my last stream, but it is my intention that I start developing his next walk gait in the near future. It's going to be a completely... I don't know how the hell I'm going to format that, because I have to actually focus on coding. It's going to get boring because I'm just going to end up staring at the screen and concentrating, because like I can't code to begin with. It's going to be even harder to code. Like, write code, think of the gate and the degrees, and kind of verbalize all of my thought processes so people know what's going on. So that'll get interesting. Challenge my MC abilities. And then, on top of writing test code for the board and making Noodles cupcakes and socializing, I want to get some play on Breath of the Wild in, because that game's pretty fun. Like, the majority of my non-existent free time has gone towards playing that. What the hell this looks like. So Mark is actually out hunting right now. He's running errands I think, getting food for tonight. I think he's getting the ingredients for the festivities, should they end up happening. In the occurrence, what's the word? Just in case, like, people actually end up showing to hang out while we do make these cupcakes for Noodle. I think we're making a trough of fajita meat, like chicken fajitas with like peppers and onions or something, so that everyone can eat tacos. So Noodle's human parents will be having fajita tacos and jello shots, and then Noodle's gonna get a couple cupcakes of his own to mash. He's gonna extract the bean out of his jello. That's another thing I need to do. So, on my ginormous list of backlogged stuff that I need to get done sooner rather than later, I never documented the second iteration of Noodle's tasting feat that I made this summer for him. I think I introduced them. The first iteration of the tasting appendages got proper videos where I explained what they were going to do, what the challenge was, and how I was planning to execute making the functioning foot. And I show the proof of concept that I end up making, but I never did go through and make videos explaining where I got to before the Ars Festival, because I did make a second working, I guess, iteration of each of his feet, his modes of taste. And they look really nice, and they do at least 50% work, each of them. But once I got home and kind of, got out of that at the end of the summer, I was bad and I never really went back to producing proper documentation. So I think I've got one more of these. The upper ring of bones to weld into place. Or two more, sorry. Or these will face in the same direction. Where is the toaster from my comic? Oh! Toaster is actually next to Noodle. Actually, if I turned him on right now, you might be able to see him from here. I'll do that in a second. I need to remember to turn him on. Like, he's... I guess... Is he older than Noodle? No. That's another thing I'm gonna end up putting up on my Tindy, are those boards for his eyes. So eventually I'll make another iteration of those and release them as things that you can get off of my store. And then I'm thinking I'm gonna have a walkthrough on how to gift your toaster expressive eyes. Because everyone's toaster would be better if it could express itself with facial expressions. Oh god. Look at what you're doing, Sarah. So when I do end up doing the actual proper walkthrough on how to build one of these jellies, the majority of that instruction is going to be the creation of this shaft, this drive shaft here, because it's not difficult to assemble, but it does take steps, and you probably couldn't figure it out by just looking at it, I'm thinking. Some of you might be able to, I'm not gonna. Some of you people are really good at looking at things and figuring out exactly how they're assembled, but yeah, the majority of this, the instructions for the jelly are going to involve making the drive system in the center. All this bone attachment, it's the same series of steps. You just really need to look at where which pieces go, and then once you know, it's like, you don't need me. But I appreciate that you're keeping me company while I do this monotonous task. Make my afternoon a little bit more exciting. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. There it is. Creme de cream. What does that liqueur taste like, Yosh? Because I don't know what that is. I'm probably gonna pronounce it wrong if I try to say it. Cassie? Creme de Cassie? And yes, Nate, I was on Mythbusters at some point. That was like a year ago now. That was an interesting time. Was on. What was a year ago? A year ago that it aired. The show was shot over the summer last summer. So for me, it feels like even longer ago, but yeah. I was indeed on it. It's one of those weird life things that I can say I did. Okay, so this is the last one. I'm going to change up my game just slightly after I attach this last guy here. The bottom ring of bones is the opposite protocol of the ones I just did. I'm going to be sandwiching 2 bones on either side of a single tab. So, yeah. So that's the complete top ring of bones right there. Yay! Bones. And these actually all face downward like that. So that's their proper orientation. And I'm going to attach the ones on the bottom, one on either side of each of these tabs, and instead of bowing or arcing outward, they're going to arc inward. And the little extra tab bit right there is going to poke up on in the middle. You'll see. So I'm going to be attaching these like that, as such. So it creates a nice S curve, nice contrapposto curve. Ooh, black currant? That sounds delicious, actually. Not sure if you have anything black currant in this stencil that I think of. Mythbusters. I don't know, I haven't seen any of the new season yet. Has anyone watched any of the episodes of the one that's out now with the new cast? Because I don't watch TV, I'm really bad about that. So, I mean, eventually, like, I'll go through and I'll watch a show at night, like, one episode at a time as I'm winding down out of my workday. But, it's usually a TV show, like Doctor Who or something. Like, I don't tend to do... I don't know. I don't know. I don't watch Mythbuster. I guess, would Mythbusters qualify as a reality TV show? Kind of. I don't know. It's not the typical type of show that I'll watch when I'm winding down for the evening. So I'm gonna need a little bit more dexterity to attach these bones. Oh, what am I currently creating? I'm creating, and for those of you who have joined since I started, this is the second iteration of a miniature mechanical jelly. I've been working on this for the past 2 weeks. It's my next kind of instructable kit that I'm going to be releasing in the near future. This was the first iteration. I'm working on the second iteration. The only difference is that it's red. I felt like trying red. So I'm attaching the bones to the drive, like linear pulley drive system, which is this bit in the middle. And now I'm attaching the deprinted bones. I'm plastic welding them with little pegs in place. It's kind of like surgery, but on a plastic robot. To explain exactly what I'm doing, I'm using my soldering iron to basically make little like micro rivets that act as joints. So once I put one of these little pegs in place that kind of skewers like the bones where they ought to go through the little holes, I flatten out either end of the rivet so that it doesn't come out again, so it's kind of like a permanent staple, I guess. And you can deform the ends of your pegs with heat. There we go. So that is what I'm doing. It's not terribly exciting. So I'm thinking I'm going to need to do one more revision or iteration of this jelly design before I get it working exactly the way I want. It usually takes 3. 3 times is the charm, I guess. This solves a lot of the problems I had with the first iteration, but there are still some bugs that I could work out now that I've implemented the use of the pipe. For my linear motion. By the time I get to the next one, it'll be nice. It'll be streamlined. Yes. So yeah, I'm gonna be sandwiching 2 of these on either side of the peg, and then so you see what I'm working towards. These 2 will attach right there. I'm gonna have to kind of pull these in. But those 2 holes will overlap, and I'll be pegging those in place next. So I'm basically birthing. This is another birthing session. Like, I actually kind of hate doing this, but it's a necessary evil at the moment. I still have a lot of baby noodles to make, the miniature noodle that also involves this plastic welding technique. I'm still sending them out as sort of like, I guess, beginning of the year gifts for people, and it's slow to make them. Like, it takes me a good like hour to do this same sort of process to construct the noodles, and if you've made one yourself, you know it's kind of time consuming. I mean, I'm a little bit faster when I'm not talking, but it takes time. So yeah, I'm still doing Christmas gifts. Probably not too terribly unusual. The later series and the most recent feel too new. Interesting. I'll probably get around to watching the new one. I mean, I need to, because I'm curious. I feel like I was in some... I had some, like, relative involvement with it, so I want to see what the outcome was. I just need to, just get around to it. I think the red will look, this red filament for this jelly will look really nice with the LEDs on this board. So there's actually 6 surface mount LEDs on this guy, and they're eventually going to be UV LEDs, but the first set of these, the prototypes, are going to have blue ones, which still fluoresce UV filament. Red isn't a ultraviolet, like, fluorescing filament color. However, it does kind of glow in an interesting way with blue LED lights. Anyone who has a Replicator 3D printer with the LEDs on the inside maybe noticed that those blue, the blue LED lighting actually causes certain filament colors to glow. I mean, the red doesn't glow like you'd imagine the neon yellow would under black light conditions. However, it does have kind of a nice, rich effect. It makes the red pop. It's like a neon red effect almost. So I'm thinking that this color will end up turning out pretty nice as an alternative. My next one for the 3rd iteration will be white, with the gray mounting pieces. And again, the white bones will look like this. It'll be like a little skeleton. So at some point while I'm streaming, Mark will actually show up and be home again. I mentioned this earlier, but he's out, like, getting supplies for tonight's festivities regarding Noodle's birthday. I'll fix it now, so I'll forget later. One of the hardest parts about doing this step is making sure that the joints are tight enough, because a lot of the baby noodles that I made for people and sent out as gifts, the plastic welding was a little bit loose, and the noodles weren't able to stand up on their own, which is bad of me. Totally a bad thing. The marshmallow boards that I've sent out have been received well, which is good. One of my customers, I can call them customers, posted a video or a notification on Twitter. I guess their first live stream was assembling their own noodle spawnling, like from my instruction, using the board that I sell on my Tindy, which made my day. But I think the thing I get out of doing all of this, like creating the instructions and the board and kind of like putting this out there, is seeing other people not just buy something that I've made, but actually make something that I designed. There's some, I get fulfillment out of that, because it's not like, this is even a step farther than buying like a kit. Like, you have to actually produce the parts and modify them a little bit to get them to work just right. So it takes an extra step of effort, and I think it's awesome that people, they do it. I think Mark's home. But anyhow, I think it's awesome that people are actually building noodle spawnlings and getting marshmallow boards and using them. Again, I had no idea if this was going to work out or how it would be received, but it's been really fun, so I'm going to keep creating, I guess, instructable mechanical kits like this for a while. So the purpose, again, I think I stated this during my last stream, but the reason why I'm creating, the reason why these are like this, 1 second, I'm going to say hi to you. Mark? No? Maybe he can't hear me. Never mind. What? I'm holding a soldering iron. I'm holding a soldering iron. Sorry. So the goal with these miniatures is that they each have an electronic component, a mechanical component, and some sort of sensor involved with the electronics. In my mind, this is like the bare minimum needed for something to actually be considered a proper robot. It needs to sense something from its environment and then do something based on that sensory, like on its own. So it's not being controlled by me, it's, you know, processing something independently. And it has to be mechanical in some way. Like there has to be some moving part to it, in my heart. Like for me, robots are mechanical creatures. So all of the things in this series will have everything that I just listed in some capacity. And I just kind of deformed this bone a little bit. Not bad. Hopefully that's not a problem. Keep going. None of these are perfect. But I already have what I want the next PCB to, I already know what I want the next circuit to be. It's going to be another coin cell sized board for another tiny mechanical creature that I've already built in the past. I'm kind of, right now at least, on the kick of creating tiny versions of things that I've already made. So I'm making like boo-boo versions of all of my robots from my past, just to see if I can scale them down. And there's something satisfying about having a miniature version of something. Like when I was a kid, I was obsessed with tiny stuff, like tiny food and like Barbie furniture and just like little versions of everything. Like the smaller something was, like a micro machine or a tiny car, the more I wanted it and was fascinated by it. So my favorite toys were just like really tiny shit. Plus there's just an added challenge in creating working things that are small, because hardware and stuff only gets so tiny. Like the whole development of this plastic welding process came from me really not being able to implement hardware realistically in something this scale. Like, I mean, I know they make screws and nuts and stuff this small, but I don't want to assemble something with screws and nuts that's this tiny. Plus, I imagine that would get quite expensive, so I'm not gonna do it. You have to solve problems a little bit differently when you're making stuff this small, because stuff works differently when you get tiny and things matter more. Anyhow. My stream with me, I found that added. Oh, cool! I need to watch it still. And thank you for being back. I haven't. It's on like my to-do list. I was like, I'm gonna do this while I'm drawing today. I think I said that. I replied and I was like, I'm gonna watch the stream while I'm drawing. I didn't even end up drawing, so I need to get around to it. I'm like bad, but I want to see how it went because I'm curious. Like I'm honestly excited that people are able to look at my instructions and actually do them. That means I'm on some level coherent enough to state my process and it makes sense enough that other people can replicate it, and that's awesome and it excites me. And I want to know what its name is as soon as you name it. And yeah, the plastic welds, it's hard to get them tight. Like, even when you like really heat them up and press them to like mash them together as much as you possibly can, it's still difficult to get them stiff enough that the noodle stands up. I'm gonna have to come up with a workaround for that. Noodle's actual legs have a spring that helps counterbalance him upwards against gravity. It's one of those compression or tension, I think it's a tension spring. But it actually pulls his legs out, like straight, so it makes him want to stand up. And I can do something similar to that with the baby, the Bibu legs of the tiny noodle, using the same elastic bands that I'm using with this jelly. So they'd basically be doing the same thing that the tension springs in Noodle's legs are doing, which is fighting gravity. Cool. And hi, if you've just joined within the past like 10 minutes, like hello and greetings and welcome. Spawning up, but this one printer needs me. Hi Benjamin. Hi Game of Knowing. Hi everybody. Sorry, back to work. I don't know. 3D printers are awesome. I mean, they're awesome for rapid prototyping, but they're awesome in that, like, I don't have to actually send people these parts. They can print them, like, on their own, or modify them and print them on their own. It's literally like having a replicator and walking up to it and going, computer, I want a glass of water, and it, like, produces it for you. But not that awesome. Just partially that awesome. It's like, computer, I want a baby noodle. And then your super high-tech box poops out all of the organs and bones for your baby noodle. It's freaking cool. Me and Mark's printer, it's a Replicator 1. It's the original one, the dual extrusion one. That thing is a beast. I've used other printers, even the Replicator 2 by the same company, and they're not as consistent and reliable as the original one by MakerBot. It's a workhorse. I think at this point, over the 5 years that I've been using it, I have to have produced over like 7,000 or 10,000 parts on it between the Kickstarter fulfillment and then just me being a raptor and making so many things a day. Like, I use the 3D printer every day. Like, I use it, it's embarrassing how much I use the 3D printer as opposed to other things in the household that I probably should use more regularly. I'm not going to list any of them. But the printer, it gets used. It gets loved. I'm almost done with this. I've got one more tab, 2 more of these funky bones, and then I can start attaching the 2 tiers together. And I'm almost done with this portion. Like the next step of this build is to create what I call the bell, which is the top of the jelly where the tendrils mount. That's like the little on a moon jellyfish. That's like where all the little circle things are on its head. I haven't really figured out like a method of attaching the tendrils to the top that I'm satisfied with, so that's a part of this design that hasn't really been finalized yet. Nor have I found a length of tendril that feels about right, because these, oh god, these are kind of short for this design, and they don't attach to the bones in quite the right location yet, so I have to kind of work that out. It's going to take some trial and error, but I'm getting there. Anyhow, hi Mark.
Hi.
Say hi to the internet. Say hi, internet.
I'm just getting gloves.
For what?
I'm gonna dismantle this roasted chicken.
Oh. Oh, you're gonna dismantle it?
Yes, I'm gonna debone it.
Okay.
But I don't want to get my hands greasy, so.
Okay.
Use gloves.
There's not any poison on your gloves.
I'll wash them. Okay. They're not. They're new gloves, honey.
Okay.
Never do that.
Okay. There isn't like talc. There isn't like talc on them
We'll
or
wash
anything.
that off.
Wash off the talc. No. No, it causes cancer if you breathe it or something. No. Hello, Garrett. I want to print Earl Grey hot. Man, I wish I had a tea printer. Like, one of the reasons why I like drinking tea so much is because of the process that you have to go through to make the tea. Like, I have a kettle. You have to heat up the water in the kettle, so that means you have to fill it. I use one of those tea ball things, those, like, tea basket whatevers. And you have to fill that with the loose tea leaves, so that's a process. And then I have my good honey, which I have to fight the honey bottle to get the honey out of it without becoming sticky everywhere. So there's this whole, like, this song and dance that you go through to get proper tea. And that used to be the thing that I loved about drinking tea so much. But now that I keep busy all day, and I'm so busy that I don't like breaking to eat food. I don't drink as much tea because it's a process. So I really wish that I could just either A, have a tea servant, like a tea slave, or just replicate some freaking tea. Granted, I know that I could probably just use a tea bag, like plain old tea bag, but I like my fancy tea. We have this really good, like, tea monger here in Vegas that has really good tea, but it's all loose leaf, like, real stuff. Oh, this is hard to do when there's all these little pieces sticking out. Alright, focus, sir. The house smells like food. So I don't know what he's cooking. It should be fajitas, though. I did mention that. Fajitas. Oh, I'll see you. What? Fluff reindeer? Fluff reindeer. Fluff reindeer. Bye. Oh, hi, Mark. I don't say that nearly enough, by the way. There's my life goal. I need to say, oh, hi, Mark, to Mark, like, at least once a day. That's another thing I didn't get to do this Christmas. Like, I didn't get to watch The Room, which is for some reason associated with Christmas. Like, I don't really understand why, but like, how did that start? Like, why is The Room like a Christmas movie? Does anyone know? I mean, I don't. I just know that it is. But anyhow, so right, all these tendril pieces, the double ones, have been attached to the bottom ring, and the top ring is also complete, and now all I have left to do is attach these together. And I've got more or less a completed assembly for one of these miniature jellies. The part that comes after this, there is a extra bone, tiny bone, that attaches to this little tab bit that sticks out. There's that extra hole right here on these pieces. These smaller bones actually attach to that hole right here. And there's a reason for that. These tiny bones facilitate in pushing the tendrils out. Although they don't quite do so in a manner that I'm happy with yet, but doesn't matter. They need to be attached. Anyhow. Oh man, I want to see The Room in theater. The disaster artist looks good, by the way. Huh. Alright. On to the next part. So I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to do during the stream. I might just finish this assembly and then end it, and then I might stream again later on tonight if we do noodle festivities regarding the Jell-O. I don't know. It seems like the right thing to do, to like celebrate Noodle's birthday with everybody. But I don't know how my evening's going to go, so we'll see. Go. Nope. Okay. So this thing just gets more and more annoying. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see people make this if they do. It's not that it's any harder than the noodle spawnling, it's just way more involved. And the thing that's going to be interesting about this build is that you do have to go and source some parts yourself, so you can't just print everything. You're going to actually have to go to a hardware store to get the correct pipe in the dimensions that I list. So there's actually a BOM list for this build in addition to the STL files. And it's not very long, but you still have to go and get the parts to complete building the jelly in the proper manner so that it works. And I do have to state, that's another goal with these builds, is that as many of the parts are 3D printable as possible, but when it comes to mechanical things, performing functions or specific motions, there's like only so much you can do with plastic. Metal is necessary. It's strong, it's rigid, it holds its shape. When you need parts that have to slide on top of other parts, like plastic has so much friction, and especially the 3D printed stuff, since it has that texture from the layers, you really can't get the same smooth, like, I don't know, surface on surface sliding motion as you can with lubricated metal parts. Because plastic is chafy at the end of the day. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. So the white jelly that I make after this will look pretty nice. Like I'm thinking the white might maybe fluoresce a little bit in the UV LEDs, but in any case, the color LEDs on the tendrils of the jelly will illuminate its white parts nicely, I anticipate. So as soon as I'm done assembling this, I'm going to assess what still isn't working and then go back to the drawing board pretty much immediately. Because realistically, as soon as I can get this working, I can create the instructions and then put the circuit board, which is, again, the Bulbis board, up on my Tindy. And I really want to start selling these because I want to make money, for one, but I'm curious to see what people do with them. But I want to be 100% satisfied with how this thing works before I publish it. That's reasonable. 3D printers. Yeah. 3D printers are amazing for that reason. Yes, they produce janky things that are still usable. Like, even really bad 3D prints are still really helpful when you're prototyping, just for the sake of getting a sense of the proportions of the shape that you're trying to create. Go, Peace, you can do it! I've actually never, somebody mentioned the Ready Player One movie. I've actually never read the book. And I don't watch movies. I'm really bad about that. Like I'm bad at consuming stuff. And I know I ought to. I mean, there's stuff that I want to see, I just am very bad about making time for it. I'm a professional shut-in. So I'm hoping I do get a comic page out today. Like, it's sitting at like 99% like complete. I just need to like buckle down and I think sign it and then just like have Mark proofread it and make sure that it makes sense to him, and then I can publish that on my webcomics page and then move along. Like my personal goal was to publish a chapter a year, and for the past 2 years I was able to stay on task with that, and this is the first year that I haven't. I didn't even get like a third through chapter 3 because I was really busy this year, which is fine. I mean, some years are just busier than others, but I really do want to actually finish the story. The story to my webcomic, which is called Gravity Road, is done. Like, I wrote it, it exists, so there isn't a lot that I'm making up on the spot, page by page. So it's just a matter of me kind of dishing it out at this point. And it is a story I really do want to tell, so I just need to make sure that I stay on task and kind of just push it out, just do the thing. And I don't know if anyone's like attempted reading it. It's maybe a bit difficult to follow right now, but the comic is ultimately about how what my understanding of art in general, how that's evolved, like what it means to create art and what art is, how that definition has changed from the time I was about in high school to the time I got out of college. So it's kind of a personal narrative, sort of, but the setting of the comic is kind of a post-apocalyptic universe where the only thing left behind are the machines that we've created, and they're speculating amongst each other about what creativity and art meant to humans now that we aren't around anymore. So that's what my webcomic is about. And I should mention this again. What is my favorite comic? Ooh, somebody just asked what my favorite comic is. I don't really read comics, but there's one webcomic that I read called Kill 6 Billion Demons. I don't know if anyone reads Kill 6 Billion Demons in this room or that's present right now, but you should totally check it out. If you don't, it's amazing. Not only is the illustration fantastic, but the story is like quite awesome as well. I don't really even know how to just like give a synopsis regarding what it's about. You just have to, I guess, check it out. It's about no, I'm not even gonna try. Just look it up. It's fantastic. I don't know. Angels, demons, devils, humans, inner struggle, like tongue-in-cheek references to all religions across the board, power, what it is to have power, to seek power, to obtain it, to be corrupted, to be human, to be fallible. It's a good comic. And again, it's visually fantastic. So definitely check that out. And mine. You should check mine out as well. Cool, Benjamin. If you read it, yes, totally awesome. Glad someone else reads it other than me. Like, I keep trying to get my friends, like, in real life to read the comic, but they just kind of, I don't know, haven't bit. So I want to talk to people about it. Doesn't that suck when you really like something, but you're the only person you know that's consumed it and you have no one to really discuss it with? It's the worst type of, I'm going to call that intellectual constipation. Intellectual constipation. Alrighty. Cool. Oh, nope, one more. Beep-boo. One more of these guys, and the assembly is mostly done. Pretty much done. Ah. Oh man. I am all thumbs. Jello. Anybody else like Jello? Other than me? Jello is a weird thing. I guess I should mention this, like, Noodle's cake every year is like an amalgamation of things that Noodle likes. But not just like foods, all shapes and all textures. So I try to have his like cake involve as many textures as possible. Because Noodle's a creature of feels. He likes to be tactilely stimulated. As any child might. Looks about done. Alright, so this is the meat of the assembly. And again, This is just a tinier version of this big guy right here. It's the same thing. I just scaled it down. The big jelly is of course large enough that I can fit actual motors in here to drive those two discs towards one another and apart. I implement a rack and pinion system in this robot, I guess. That's how I get the bits to move. That's, again, way too many moving parts to try and cram in something this small, so no motors, just you have to actually, with your hands, pull the string to get the thing to, I don't know, function the way it ought to. So I have this test tendril bit. The last portion, I don't know if I'm going to make this right now, because I might redesign it before I attach it. I need to make a bell again, which is the part that fits on the top of this. I'm probably going to make longer tendrils. I'm going to play around with how they're fixed on the top so that they don't kind of like freely rotate off of the center mounting piece. And then this ultimately needs to, this whole part right here, the plastic base bit actually has to attach itself to this board, the circuit board that is the brain. And right now it kind of just brackets onto the circuit board with tension, which is fine, that'll work, like I don't have to change that bit. But I want to make sure that there's enough room so that once I add the battery clip to the back of the circuit board, that it still fits the way that it's supposed to. Other than that, yeah, this piece needs to be redesigned. I'm also not entirely happy with the colors of vellum that I've got at the moment. It is really hard to find colored vellum, like, not on the internet. Like, I've been going to scrapbooking stores just to try and find specifically vellum, because it's semi-transparent, but it's also stiff enough that it holds its form, and it doesn't kink or bend super easily like paper. Mostly because it's transparent, and I think it'll have a cool effect with the LEDs once they're installed. But again, yeah, like I can only find it in like baby pink or baby blue and then gold, and of course white. But I would like to find some more bold, interesting colors. So I might just have to, you know, order a pack of it off of Amazon. I don't want to. So yeah. So that's with all the bits out. It sticks, but yeah. Yeah, I need lube. The jelly needs lube. Am I gonna do the next part? I don't know. I might end this and come back later tonight during the, once we start actually making the jello shots. 'Cause yeah, I feel this strange urge. It's not a strange urge, but I feel a strong urge to check out what Mark's doing in the kitchen and help him maybe. Because he's cooking dinner and I'm just in here, like, ignoring all of that. Oh, and yeah, I'm looking at the chat again, so. Someone asked, AP Tech asked if I think there's a future in soft artificial muscles. They're doing some interesting stuff with nylon string on YouTube. Nylon string. It depends. I've seen a lot of interesting things with what is it? Like the pneumatic air-filled stretching muscles. There's that goopy stuff that actually acts like muscle fiber. And then there are people that use the elastic or like nylon strings by winding them up really tight in on themselves so that they compress inwards and outwards. I've seen a lot of really interesting forms of implementation regarding like kind of like mechanical things that mimic the way our muscles work. And my thoughts regarding that, I think it's interesting, and I think that if we continue honing that, it'll make sense in larger tech, like for larger, more industrial machines. I still don't think, for me, like, but who does what I do? For me, it doesn't make sense right now to explore how to utilize that technology in what I do, because it would really overcomplicate my process of creation to try and, you know, mash a lot of that technology into the form factor of the sorts of things that I produce. But I don't know, I see a lot of, I mean, companies like Festo have done some cool stuff with the muscle-like mechanical systems. It's interesting in the context of art. I think that tech artists are going to create some cool stuff out of it because they're gonna think of ways to use it that companies and you know, businesses necessarily won't. They're gonna take it and they're gonna do interesting, cool stuff, and that might inspire businesses or people in, you know, more traditional industries. But I think the people who are going to really push the envelope with that sort of soft artificial muscle technology are going to be the tech artists first and foremost, to answer your question. For me, I don't know. Like, I'm a low-hanging fruit type person. Like, part of why I do what I do is, I don't know why I do things this way. I like using things that are available to me that don't cost a lot of money. Things that you can obtain easily or for not a lot of money, you know, that I can afford. I prefer to do it that way, not just because I'm a starving broke artist, but because there's something interesting about like MacGyvering something that looks really complicated out of garbage or stuff that's just laying around on your desk, or that's made out of popsicle sticks or plastic or whatever. I like looking at something and being in awe by it, but I also get an extra something out of it if I can also see that I could make it myself somehow, or see that somebody made it using stuff that I also have available to me. And I'm hoping that people look at these things and get that same, like, excitement from them because they see that my stuff's just made out of plastic and basically like plastic popsicle sticks. That's effectively what all of this is. So yeah. But anyhow, with that, I think I'm actually going to take a break and meditate on where I'm at with this guy so far. I think my next stream, I will show this fully assembled, because I'll probably have it finished by then, and hopefully I'll be able to demo this mechanism actually working with the board installed. So before I cut out, I'll explain once again how this board relates to this mechanism, because I don't think I did that in this stream yet. So this board has a bunch of interesting little markings along its perimeter. Those are pads where LEDs will actually connect. There's going to be 6 RGB LEDs attached to the outside of this board that are mounted on the jelly's tendrils. In the center of this board, there is a color sensor, and the color sensor will look at the color that it sees shining on its own tendrils, and it's going to read the color value and then change its own LEDs based on the color value that it's seeing. So it's going to be creating kind of a feedback loop. So if the board is outputting green to the LEDs, and then it reads, the color sensor reads green, then it will tell the LEDs to slowly change like blue. And then if it reads blue, then it's going to tell the LEDs to slowly change purple, I don't know. So it's going to constantly be changing based on what it's doing. And hopefully the color changing of the LEDs is informed by the mechanical motion of the jelly itself. So that's the whole purpose of this mechanical electronic system and what makes it kind of an intelligent robot. So hopefully I can demonstrate the two things working together the next time I do a stream, but if not, I don't know, I'll talk at you guys during whatever it is I'm working on at that point in time. But until then, I don't know, I'm gonna post whatever point I get to at the end of today. I will publish some pictures on my Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I am at Spetku. It's SPETKU, and I tend to be pretty prolific on there with I don't know, just progress shots, and you can just talk at me. I'm there all the time. So yeah, until then, I don't know. Thank you for keeping me company for a little while. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and Noodle says thank you for hanging out with his mommy, and he wants attention now because I don't know, it's his birthday and this is supposed to be all about him, so yeah, and I'll see you guys. Good night. Noodle says good night.